students here. Web designer, like I said, this is 2 points extra credit. This will be the last week. You will take this. I have some of the tutorial on teams and these magazines. Like I said, it's 2 points for every tutorial that you submit. I know a few of you guys have already submitted the extra credit for these magazines here. There's already been applied to your name in my grade book. So, like I said, this will be the last week, and obviously after this week, those are no longer acceptable. You go to the library, there should be some there. I think I guess you know to get there early because I've taught all my classes that same thing. This is the last week. I do have some in my office, just in case you want to check the ones in my office. Pretty soon, I'll actually take those to in my office and put them to the library. So feel free to check those out. And if you do have any that you're done with, go ahead and actually return them back to the library so other folks can actually check them out. So, there's a few things here. The quiz from last Thursday, I can show you the stats on that. It's actually pretty good here. Read this. The average score was 80%. The highest score was 95%. The low score is 56, and the standard deviation is 1.75. This class took that quiz in a record. Every time there's a record amount. Most classes are like 17, 18. This class is 14. So obviously, this class has been one of the best in terms of C-Rep stuff out of all 3 classes. Good job. There was a question here that everybody got wrong. I threw it out, and so that was not the case here. At least
the question was?
Huh?
You know what the question was?
No, that's not the case here.
Oh,
it wasn't the case. If it was, I would throw it out.
Oh.
So.
Dude, one person is writing the numbers.
Yeah.
So one person.
It's probably you and Cal. You're part of that one person that threw it up for us. No, I think I'm
gonna
gonna
say like 3 or more have to get it right.
Right.
Even if it was like 3 more, I would still look at it and consider it, right? And so if it was just like one person, I would still throw it out. But yeah, so that wasn't the case. Most of the folks got good right. So here, this is a site I came across a couple weeks ago. I thought they did a good job in actually putting together a web page and kind of giving a documentation of all the different symbols you can use within HTML. You'll see that I've used some of these symbols within my example. So I thought they did a really good job. I don't know who these guys are, Dixon and Mo, whatever it may be. It's a company called Dixon and Mo, but they have currency. There's letters. There's letters. Obviously, we know the letters, right? A, B, C, through D. But then there's math symbols, number symbols, punctuation, and so forth. Right? We are common. We typically see this within the footer on the web page, right? It's not an image of what sort of HTML code that you can use. And so I've actually used this within my class example. And so over the weekend here, I had an opportunity to flesh out the example that we'll be doing throughout this week here in class, the zip code zone calculator. And so if I scroll down here, scroll over, you'll see here I'm using this HTML code for the check mark, right? And down below, using this guy here, it's like a danger sign or a warning sign that you can find within HTML. So I'm basically pulling in that HTML sign or symbol using this syntax here or this HTML code, right? Why do I bring this up? You may want to actually use these for your application, right? You may want to play a game, right? And actually have these pop up or something. Do anything with them, right? And so if I run this application, you'll see how this is outputted here. And basically this output is in HTML. I can have this actually within my HTML code as well, and it would render the same. So if I run this in the browser, so this is my application. This actually completed. It's not the fully completed application, but I'll say it's not like 90% complete, right? And so if I do mini apps location here, now enter the zip code 55430, right? It'll give me this zip confirm, which is going to be the check mark, right, which is one of those symbols, right? And then the other symbol I use is, let's say if I go on 429, which is not within the array, it'll give me this guy here, right? And so it gives style, helps the end user kind of comprehend what's going on in your application a little bit better. And so feel free to use those in your application. And like I said, this is a pretty good website you can use I mean, these have always been around, right? But somebody took the initiative to basically put it into one place and connect it to it. And it's pretty neat. It's pretty good. So it's htmlarrows.com. All right, we pause. We're going to actually finish attendance here, and then let's dig into what we're doing.
Yeah, arrows, HTML arrows. That's the code here. Would this be the code that you're putting in?
Just another thing about this application, like I said, it's about 90% code in here. You can do it 10% more and you'll be done here. But like I said, this is what we're going to work through throughout this week in terms of actually coding out the functionality for this application. It's a basic application that checks whether or not the zip code is an array. There's some validation checking in here as well. So if the user inputs below 5 characters for the zip code or more than 5 characters for the zip code, it's going to actually give them a warning. So for instance, if I were to input just 2 items here, let's select Hard Heels, and I give them 56, right? It's going to say, oh, need an alert window. Tell the end user or whoever's using this application that they need to enter 5 or more, or 5 codes exactly, right? For this functionality here, I'm actually going to use a JavaScript library called Sweet Alert. I think I may have showed this to you guys last week. This is my first time actually using it, but I found it online. I thought it was pretty neat. I think it would go well with what we're doing here. But Sweet Alert is this kind of a library that somebody put together that allows you to basically decorate the alert boxes. And so, for instance, here, this is a simple alert with the icon, but you see that's totally different from the alert box. And so it kind of gives them some visual appeal to the application once the end user enters a zip code that's not 5 characters long. I'll also use it again at the end of my application to ask the user if they would like to go to the pizza delivery page, right? And so obviously the address is, the zip code is confirmed. Would you like to now order a pizza? And so like I said, I'm taking a position as though I was the person actually placing an order for whoever's calling in. So if I was on the phone and somebody was checking to see if we delivered to a zip code, right? I basically designed an end user interface. They can select Minneapolis, they can select Arden Hills, and then they'll bring up more stuff once they select a particular location, such as the zip code. I put the zip code. I want to check with some validation checking to make sure it's 5 characters long. If it's 5 characters long, if it's 5 characters long, then check to make sure it's an array. If it's an array, give them the success sign. If not, give them it's not confirmed. It's not placed on delivery to it. And then obviously after that, if we do deliver to it, give them another alert box and say, would you like to order a pizza? Yes or no. Or go to the pizza page, yes or no, we hit yes, and then go to the pizza page using the location object and the href attribute, right? So there's a reason why I had you guys study those attributes and methods, right? And how you can actually use those within your program. So that's that. And so we also use this. Like I said, this is my first time using it. So we may have to struggle through it, maybe some errors and anything of that nature, but we'll take a look at it and actually work through it in class. And feel free to use, if you guys individual projects, use some jQuery libraries out there that you would like to use. You know, if it's something that that actually improves or enhances the end user's experience, go ahead and actually implement that library, that JavaScript library. All right, before we get started here, just a few things of how this rest of the semester is going to play out. This week we have 2 more lectures left. JavaScript lecture number 3 and JavaScript lecture number 4, which is next week, which talks about object-oriented programming. You may have already covered that within Python, but we got OOP within JavaScript. There's not going to be any assignments related to the lecture 4, but you may want to use some of those concepts within your final project. All right? And so those will be the last 2 lectures. The final exam will be on it'll either be on Tuesday or Wednesday. Most likely right now, preparing for Tuesday of the last week of this class. And that'll be the final exam. It'll be the same way as the midterm exam. It'll primarily just be the best way. I mean, one of the best tools to study for that final exam would be to actually go to W3C Schools and take the quiz, and also review the lecture notes and read the book. That'll be the best way to study for that final. Any questions before we get started here? All right, let's move. So let me pause real quick. How's the project going? Any new ideas for the individual project? I know we have grading. Sorry, it's a budget schedule. We have a grading calculator that Alex is doing. Anything else that anybody's doing for the project or what type of application you're going to build? I know somebody's doing kind of like a quotes, right? Where it actually triggers a
mini game thing, like you complete the fun with the word, selected words.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Who else likes something else?
I was doing a fun.
But yeah,
fun
it's
game.
fun. Yep. Anything else that somebody's doing? All right. So let's do obviously the 7th of this week. So make sure that that's completed and everything is good to go with that. Like I said, it's pretty much the shell of your application. The JavaScript code does not have to be working. Somebody in my class asked if I'm done with the entire application kind of submitted for assignment 6 and after that, assignment number 5. No, you have to actually submit assignment number 5, right? Even if it is a completed application. So I'm going to give some feedback and I want to actually give some more advice on how you can actually further improve that application, right? So don't just skip assignment 5 because it will be a 0, right? But make sure you submit something for assignment 5 and then submit the project for assignment 6. All right. So here's our objectives here. We've already kind of talked about arrays, but we're going to get back into that and kind of just really flesh things out as it relates to arrays and how to declare an array, how to initialize an array, and talk about arrays more in depth, right? Maybe we'll do a few examples today, and also we'll dig into our end-class example and begin to do some of the beginner stages of actually structuring that application out. So here, obviously, we're going to talk about using while statements, how to declare an array, how to store data in an array, do-while statements, if-else statements, switch statements, and so a lot of decision-making statements that we'll discuss within this week. And so this is a fun chapter. A lot of the things that you may do within your own application may include some of these various statements. So we'll do a number of different examples, and we'll include a lot of these concepts within our class example. So what is an array, right? An array is basically a list, right? We can basically declare an array and store a variety of different items within an array, right? So here we have the array name, which is new sections. And then we have the data that's within that array. World, local, opinion, and sports, right? How many items are in this array? It's 4, right? But obviously you have to remember that arrays start at index or position 0, right? They don't start at 1, they start at 0. Computers they typically start at 0, right? Here's the syntax for initializing an array. We have the var name, and then we basically give the various indexes or positions within that array. So here's an example of that. Var new sections equals world, local, opinion, and sports, right? What position is opinion in? Or index or subscript?
2.
Yep, 0, 1, 2, right? Obviously this is in 0, rows in 0, 1, 2, and 3, right? Like I said, even though it's very simple and very basic, it can be very confusing, especially if you've been coding for a long time, or you've been working on a project and you continuously look at some program. You can forget some of those basic things, even if you are experienced. Like I said here, this previously, like each item within an array has a particular index, right? And so each one has a particular subscript that you can actually look where you can look at particular data. And so if it's at 2, you say new sections subscript 2, and it actually pull up the value for whatever in that index of 2 or subscript 2. If you wanted to add on to a particular array, you can do that. Right? We can say new sections. Right now, we only have 3 different positions within our array, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So if you want to add a 4th position or a 4th index, we can say new sections 4 and then give it a value interchangeable. Right, so let's go to JS Fiddle. So here I'm going to declare an array. Say sum array equals, I would say, let's say Braden, right? Let's go ahead and get up one. Let's say Alex. Let's say Mason, right? And let's say Brandon. So this is an array that has 4 items within it, right? Obviously, Brandon is at position 0, Alex is at position 1, Mason is at position 2, and Dan is at position 3, or index and subscript. Index, subscript, position can be used interchangeably, right? If I wanted to, I can add a 5th space into this array and say, like I said, this is an array that has some string variables within it. I can say sum array. And then 4 equals loop, right? And I can give loop that 4th position, right? So if I were to output this here, or output this array, or iterate through it, to create a for loop here, so var x or var z is equal to 0, z is less in some array at length, and then z plus plus. If I were to iterate through this array, you'll see that if I output this information for some array, let's say alert, and then some array, and let's do a z here. It's going to output Brandon, Alex, Mason, Daniel, and it's also going to include the 4th position, which would be loop as well, right? So if we were to run this, you'll see Braden, Alex, Mason, Daniel, and then Luke. So like I said, we can add to an array. One might be useful, right? Sometimes if you have a game, right, you can actually keep track of the different scores based on levels, right? So you can actually use an array to say level 0, right? And then whatever score you get level 0, you can actually add that score on. You can actually initialize an empty array, right? And then track on, put on the score. And then for level 2 or level 1, you can actually add on another score for what they got for level 1, and then 2, and so forth, right? here's what I meant by actually initializing an array that doesn't have any values. Right? We could say bar colors equals this guy here, right? Right now, we're not actually declaring anything, right? We're basically saying here's an array that doesn't have any values. But if we wanted to, we could actually populate this array with values if we want to, right? Here we can say colors 2 is equal to yellow. Right, obviously yellow colors 1, color 0 don't have anything, right? The only thing that we have in this array will be an index of 2 that has the value of yellow. We'll do an example of this in a little bit here, but let's take note of this last line here. In JavaScript, values assigned to an array element can be different data types. That is not true of every language, right? It's almost, I mean, I know there's some other languages that actually allow you to specify different data types for an array. But in most languages, if you say it's only strings, it has to be string variables, right? Or if you say if it's numeric values, it has to be only numeric values for an array. But in JavaScript, it doesn't matter. You could do something such as this. We wanted to replace Mason with number 9, right? And if you wanted to output this, like I said, most languages you couldn't do this, right? Most languages, if you say a string of array of string values, all of them have to be a string values, right? With JavaScript, you can actually add numeric values in with string and with other data types as well. If you run this here, you'll see that it outputs rating, Alex, 9, Daniel, and Luke. So like I said, we've already covered arrays, but I wanted to go back and just kind of cover it again here in more detail. We can also reassign values for a particular index. Say, for instance, I wanted to reassign Alex. I could do something such as this, where I say some array, I want to do Alex, it's going to be position 1 equals cow, right? And so if I run this, I should get Braden. And even though this is cow here, I'm reassigning the particular position within that array. And I should get cow, right? Number 9, Daniel, and then Luke. Just take notes of what's going on here. We have some variables that we declare to hold the document identified by ID, statements, and then with the variables, we're going to basically attach on the .inner.html, and we're going to say that it's we're going to use position 0, position 1, position 2. So if we want to output this information to an HTML document, this is the way you would do it, right? You can actually have an array full of items, and you can actually output that information to the screen. So let's go ahead and copy this actually. Let's do this that way. Let's copy it here. So that's the completed code. So we get rid of this here. The array. Let's call it new sections. Equal. And obviously the first position is what? Copy everything over. Oh yeah, yeah. Sorry. Let's do a little odd here. if in my HTML I had some HTML, let's say let's do some H2s here, and an ID that equals section 1. And close that off. Let's do another one here. Let's just copy this code. Let's paste this here to section 2. Do the same thing here, section 3. Actually, I don't think this has an output screen, does it? I guess. Okay, this is the output screen. So obviously, visualization, but not where we render this in the browser. This is what we get. We're on the low point of theme. All right. You don't have to copy this. This is in your. This is in actual notes or the lecture slides here. But this will be an example of how to actually output this to the screen. Like I said, we've done many examples where we would output some information using HTML properly. Let's cover 2 more slides, and then let's go and get to our class example, and then we'll be done for today. We already saw an example of modifying a particular position or index within an array. And so I think I'm modifying Mason with Cal, right? I basically target the particular index or position and reassign the value for that particular index or position. We've done an example with the length property, right? The length, whenever you attach the length property to, it's going to return the numeric value of how long wherever it is you're attached it to, right? So for instance, let's go to JS Fiddle. And let's figure this out. And let's scroll this on. For instance, if I had, let's say, a var, a phrase equals this is, and then I said var phrase length equals phrase dot length. What do you think the value of phrase length will be?
12.
What is it?
12.
False?
12. Will it count?
12? Okay, 12. What? Yeah, 13.
Was 13? Yeah.
Yeah. Right, because in JavaScript it counts
spaces. Too.
Yeah, it counts the spaces, right? If you remember, we did an empty array string, right, or empty array. Well, I'm sorry, empty string value. We had to just say, if I said we had to basically the open and closing quotation marks, but you can't have any spaces in between the opening and closing quotation marks, right? Because whenever you actually have a space, it actually counts it as a character, right? So we want to be careful. But this actually returns 13. So put it alert, phrase length. It should give us the value of 13. Right? Let's keep moving here. Actually, let's make this the last slide, and then let's actually do a few things within our class example. Let me say a few things about array object. I truly regret not putting this in the quiz. So we did the document, we did the screen, we did the location, we did the window object. I wish I would do the actual array object in there as well. Next semester, I am going to have the array object in there. But the array object is just like the document or the window object. It has properties and methods associated with it, right? And so we can actually use any of the properties and methods associated with the array object. So there's some methods called push and pop that we can use. One of the properties associated with the array object is the length property that we can use. And so we'll do some examples of this as well going forward in terms of using some of those things within the array object. But like I said, this is another object within JavaScript that's at our disposal that we can actually use in terms of properties and methods associated with it. All right, let's go ahead and actually transition a little bit here. And let's actually put up our class example and begin to do the initial structuring for our in-class example after that. Yep, so the most updated version is on play.don't.edu, my username. So feel free to navigate there. So I'm going to open up the zone page. So if I run this application in the browser here, say run launch in Chrome, this is what we have so far. Just like I said, the shell that I showed you guys last week on Friday. Basically, I wanted to kind of put together the visual output. It's kind of what you guys are going to do for assignment number 5. You're going to submit to me the actual visual output for the shell of your application. It doesn't have to be functional, right? But you're going to output this information. Also kind of played around with just a little bit of the JavaScript to kind of see some of the functionality for this application. So I actually modified the DOM a little bit to kind of get to simulate the use of it. So if I go here to the Minneapolis location, I click on it, right? It'll make this guy appear. If I refresh, and I click on the Arden Hills location, it'll bring up this information here for a zip code for Arden Hills. It's the same thing actually between the zip code for this one. The Arden Hills and for Minneapolis is the same HTML box that we will use. So let's refresh here. Let's go to our source code. So if you look at the beginning of my script tag here, I just have a few statements that use the add event listener. I'm using an anonymous function. And when somebody clicks on that map, I trigger some code. I trigger the Arden map to be removed. So basically like the Minneapolis map, I want to actually get rid of the Arden map and actually display a block that I have set to display none with my HTML, right? And vice versa, where if somebody clicks on the Arden map, I want to actually get rid of the Minneapolis map and then display the block element where they can actually input the zip code, right? I'm also saying, so I'm basically modifying the DOM when removing a block element, but I'm also modifying the CSS, right? So you are free to do that within JavaScript where you can actually manipulate anything you want within the HTML DOM, the document object model. And then obviously down here, whoops. I have a function that's going to be ran that's called check address. I'll rename that function to like check zip. Actually, let's go rename it now here, check zip. Then I'll go to the function that's calling that, which is here. You press check zip. Basically, what I'm doing here is listening to the click of the return button, right? And the return button, every button on, sorry about that, guys. This guy here that wasn't going to stay up. But every button has a particular number associated with it, right? So on the keyboard, there's a return key, and then obviously like the shift key is 16, and so forth. But we want to listen to the on key press of the button, the return button, which has the key code of 13. And so when this equal to 13, run these statements, right? You guys have seen the basic functionality of this application at the beginning of the class here. There's two things I'm going to modify before we actually end class here. I actually don't want to use these anonymous functions. I just did this on the fly really quickly to kind of model what my application would look like and how it would function. but I want to actually create some name functions here. So instead of actually using these anonymous functions, it's going to create a name function. And to do that, it's going to be very simple. We'll go here, we can say mini map. I'll say false as the third parameter. And I'm going to give this function a name. I'm going to call it mini map. And I'm just going to get rid of this stuff here, right? Now do the same thing for the Arden map. Enter, give this guy a name. I'll say Arden map. I'll give the third parameter false. And then I'll give this function a name called Arden map. Now let's give it this information. So all I essentially did was basically turn my anonymous functions into named functions, right? So I'm listening, it's going to, this application should work the same. And so if I go and render this in the browser, so let's save this. Let's run it. If I click here, it works the same. If I refresh, click here, it still works the same. Nothing has changed. That's basically took my anonymous functions and made them named functions. Let's go back to the code here. Now my application, I'm doing some validation checking as well. Oh, goodness. Almost done, man. 7 more minutes left in class. All right. In my application here, whenever somebody clicks on that return button, right, I want to check to see if they've actually entered in 5 characters, right? And so I'm actually going to call a function that's going to actually perform that functionality for me within my application. So I want to actually create a function that's going to test whether or not the information being entered into that text box is only 5 characters, right? So, for instance, if I go here, I need to go first, I need to define my function. I'm just going to say function, validate, zip. It's going to be a main function. How would I target the input box that they actually input their zip into? Give me the code for it. Anybody?
Tagging that's tagging the get ID.
Yep.
The ID for the yeah, I'm not sure was it
And if I
one
go up,
tagging
it's
the
gonna
get
be
ID
what?
ID.
Yep, zip.
Zip. And it should be
Right?
dot.
And what else? What's next?
Was it that was on key press, right?
We want to get the value of that text box, right? Whenever they enter into that text box, we want to get the value of it, right? And so let's, for instance, let's take the information that we get from the text box, and let's actually declare a variable called zip. And zip is going to hold the value of whatever we're getting from that text box. So if they enter 15, right, zip is going to say, get the information from that text box, get the value from that text box, and assign it to the variable zip, right? How do we get the length of whatever text they entered into that text box? Yep, that length, but what do we have? Give me the code here. Zip dot length, yep. You know that we declare a new variable here. That's what I call var zip length equals zip dot length, right? So whatever they input into that text box, I want to get the length of it, right? And I'm going to do some decision logic to check whether or not it's 5 characters or more. If it's not 5 characters, right? Give them alert box where we'll actually use the suite alert,
Right.
and then tell them that the zip code needs to be 5 digits. Right? All right. So right now, this is simply just defining the function, right?
So I bet you just do like something like if zip length is less than 5, then do the error message. Else, just do execute the code.
Yeah, I would say that's what we do. I'm gonna do an else there, but I just need to say,
Well,
yep, I'll say, yep, if the zip length is equal to 5, right? But if it's not equal to 5, right, then I'll put the alert message, right?
Does the exclamation point equal sign not?
Yep, exactly. Exclamation equal. So those knows assignment algorithms about lecture number 1. So everything I lecture on, right, I'm gonna use, right? I'm gonna try to give a demonstration on it. So you know, see me use an example of that. So what Trent is saying here is basically, looking at my code here, I'll say if zip length is not equal to 5, right?
Right.
Do something here. So this is what Trent is talking about here. And this basically says it's not equal to 5.
Right.
Right? All right, guys. Let's pause right here. And let's pick up here tomorrow. We're going to do some more lecture slides. And then we'll jump back into the class example and continue to flesh this out. Make sure you read chapters number, what is it?
This is 5 and 6? No.
Yeah, 5 and 12, I think it is.
Yeah, 5 and something else.
Actually, I don't know. I was trying to anything that's not specified
Yeah, so 5 and 12, make sure you read chapters 5 and 12 for this week. And obviously next week we read chapters 8. And that'll be it for the book. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow.